Welcome to the Great Divorce Podcast, hosted by divorce financial analyst and retirement planning counselor Andrew Hatherley. Join Andrew and guest experts as they help late-life divorcees build the financial and mental foundation for a meaningful future. There is life after divorce. Now, on to the show.
Hello, everybody. In my work as a divorce financial analyst, I've reviewed hundreds of marital balance sheets. And the two key assets are normally the marital residence and various retirement plans. Of course, there are some cases where there is a significant business owned by the couple or several rental properties. But for the most part, the two R's are predominant: the principal residence and the retirement plans. Today, I want to focus on retirement assets, but specifically, I want to focus on annuities. Sounds like fun, right? Well, listen, you might find it helpful. Let's begin by defining exactly what an annuity is. Essentially, it's a financial product that provides a stream of income, typically used for retirement. It's a contract between you and an insurance company where you pay money now in exchange for regular payments in the future. This money you invest now, either all at once or over time, can pay you income either immediately or at a future date. Now, I could spend an hour talking about all the different types of annuities, but relax, I won't do that. But I will spend a couple of minutes going over the various types of annuities just so that you're aware, because there are many times people hear the word annuity and they have preconceived notions of what it really is. So let me just recap the types of annuities, and then I'll focus on one type of annuity that is both popular and potentially complicated when dealing with it in divorce. Okay, let's start with the simplest type of annuity, the immediate annuity. These types of annuities begin paying income after a lump sum premium is paid. Usually that premium is paid, or that income is paid monthly. Immediate annuities are good for retirees and typically older people in their 70s and 80s needing income now. I say older people because the payout on these annuities is greater as you get closer to your expected actuarial lifespan. Well, that's a fancy way of saying the insurance company will pay you more in income if it thinks you're going to die sooner, and they won't have to pay the income stream after that. These types of annuities can be single or joint life and have various payout structures. For instance, the annuity could pay you for your life, or it could pay for a certain time period, regardless of whether you're alive. For instance, life income with guaranteed period of 20 years, otherwise known as life with period certain, would ensure a payout even if you die early. I should quickly note that whenever I use the term guarantees with annuities, there are conditions. These guarantees are backed by insurance companies. They're promises made by the issuing insurer, not the government or any federal insurance program. So the financial strength of the insurance company is very important. If that insurance company were to fail, the guarantees are only as secure as a state guarantee association would cover, and those vary depending on your state. So, with that disclaimer out of the way, let's look at a second type of annuity, the deferred annuity. This simply means that the income starts at a future date and gives the premium payment a chance to grow tax-deferred. These types of annuities are good for people still in the accumulation phase, several years from retirement, or people planning future income. Fixed annuities provide a guaranteed regular payment based on a fixed interest rate, and they're most often compared with CDs. Just like immediate annuities, they've got no exposure to stock market volatility. But note that they don't have FDIC insurance guarantees of CDs. Variable annuities do have exposure to the stock market. and their future payments can be based on the performance of chosen sub-accounts, which are like mutual funds. There is the potential for higher returns, but there's also market risk. Key to these variable annuities is that they often include optional riders for income guarantees or death benefits. Finally, there's the equity indexed annuity. Investment returns on these annuities are linked to a market index like the S&P 500, but they typically have caps or limits on gains and floors on losses. These types of annuities typically offer more growth than a fixed annuity, but less than a variable annuity, and often you'll see these products will offer a guaranteed minimum income return. As I mentioned a moment ago, I want to focus on one type of annuity, and that's the variable annuity, both because they're popular and they can be a little tricky when being divided in divorce. I want to mention at the outset that variable annuities have come under regulatory scrutiny for the way they're sold. The fact is, some advisors out there, and they really shouldn't be called financial advisors, they're annuity salesmen, well, they tend to view the variable annuity as a marvelous tool for all investors. And they often don't spend the time consulting with you, the client, about your particular situation in life, your risk tolerance, your need for access to cash, and various other issues that should be related to putting together a retirement investment portfolio. You might have guessed that variable annuities are popular with some advisors because they pay high commissions, not because they're necessarily suitable for the client. My attitude towards variable annuities is that they can be a suitable tool for some clients as part of their investment portfolio. They can offer growth potential and income guarantees, but there are some potential disadvantages which need to be understood. I won't go into too much detail, but those disadvantages can include high fees and complexity, which can lead to misunderstandings about performance, risk, and guarantees. Variable annuities typically have surrender charges, which means if you withdraw the money within the surrender period, typically 5 to 10 years, you can face penalties for those withdrawals. Variable annuities are not ideal for anybody with short-term needs or emergency funds. While annuities do grow tax-deferred, withdrawals are taxed as ordinary income, not capital gains. This can result in higher taxes compared to investments held in taxable brokerage accounts. And then there are liquidity issues, meaning there is limited access to the funds without penalties, such as a 10% early withdrawal penalty if under age 59 and a half. Many of these annuities have riders, such as income guarantees, which often apply to what's called a benefit base. Sometimes people confuse this benefit base or income base with the actual account value, so it's important for people to understand the distinction between the real cash value of the annuity and the benefit or income base. Sometimes in my work as a divorce financial analyst, I see retirement investment portfolios loaded with variable annuities. Looking past the issue of whether these investments are suitable, the fact of the matter is they need to be dealt with in divorce. And this is where things can get complicated. Consider, for instance, a regular IRA or a transfer on death investment account. With both these accounts, you've got an owner, the person who owns the investment, and a beneficiary, the person who would receive the investment upon the death of the owner. With annuities, you've got an additional party, the annuitant. Now, the annuitant is the person on whose life the policy is based. Now, often this is the same person as the owner, but it needs to be clarified and understood in the divorce. Another added wrinkle is that with a regular investment account or an IRA or a 401k, the value of the investment is clear. It's the actual cash value of the investment. With annuities, you've got different components. As I mentioned before, you have the actual real cash value, which is what you put into the annuity plus any growth or minus any losses on the sub-account investments. That value would appear on the marital balance sheet, just as a value of your IRA or a regular brokerage account would. But with variable annuities, you've also got a death benefit, which is the amount the beneficiary would receive upon the death of the annuitant. Now, that number may be the same as the actual cash value of the annuity, but it may not. There may be enhanced death benefits, which make it a greater value than the cash value. This needs to be taken into consideration. What we really need to watch out for are those variable annuities with what are called living benefit riders. These riders often provide for a certain level of future income based on what I mentioned before, this benefit base or income base number, which grows over time. It's important to distinguish between this benefit base or income base, which is not a cash value a client can withdraw from an annuity. It's a dollar number that's used as a figure to determine an income the owner might take out of the annuity over time should they choose to turn on this rider. And I think I should give you an example. Let's say you put $100,000 into an annuity 10 years ago. And let's say that due to a combination of investment choices in the annuity and the investment fees, which tend to be high in annuities, the annuity is only grown to $130,000. But let's say that the income base has grown to $200,000. Remember, if you were to cash out the annuity, you would take $130,000, not $200,000. The $200,000 number is used to compute a potential income stream for the annuity should you choose to turn it on. So let's say that the income stream is based on a 5% withdrawal rate of the benefit base. So 5% of $200,000 is $10,000 a year. Can you see how this gets interesting? We've got a second value to the annuity. The living benefit gives us the value of a $10,000 a year income stream for the rest of your life. So, which is worth more, the $130,000 cash value of the annuity or the net present value of the income stream? You can see how things get a little tricky dividing the value of this in divorce. While splitting the real cash value of the annuity is relatively less complicated, we still have to consider possible 10% redemption fees prior to age 59 and a half, and of course we still have to consider any surrender charges that may still apply to the policy. When looking at the living benefit riders, we've got to consider that these guaranteed income bases are usually not divided or transferred. The thing is with variable annuities is that they are so many different insurance companies. And different insurance companies will have different riders and all have different options or policies regarding how they can be divided in divorce. Which is why it's crucial that divorcing parties work with a financial advisor who understands the language of variable annuities and can speak with the insurance companies directly with you to determine exactly what options are available with respect to splitting your particular annuity in divorce. And then we've got the death benefits. As I mentioned earlier, the death benefit on some older annuities particularly could be much higher than the real cash value of the policy. When I'm working with clients and attorneys in divorce cases, and they tell me that there are annuities involved, I always ask some or all of the following questions. What type of annuities are there? Variable, fixed, indexed, immediate, or deferred? Is the annuity still growing, or has the income been turned on? And note that sometimes the income being turned on doesn't necessarily mean the same thing as being annuitized. That's another question. Is there a surrender fee? Will the carrier waive the surrender charge in the case of divorce? If the annuity is in income status, can the annuity be divided without jeopardizing the income generated? Does an enhanced death benefit exist? What happens in divorce if the annuity is divided or moved to the non-annuitant spouse? Ask the annuity carrier what happens if the annuity has been annuitized, and what happens at the death of the owner and/or annuitant. and ask the annuity carrier what happens if the owner and/or annuitant dies. For instance, would one spouse be able to continue to receive income depending on how the annuity was set up? Ultimately, the decision on what to do with an annuity in divorce will depend on what makes the most sense for a long-term financial planning perspective for both clients. It's crucial to be very methodical in dealing with each variable annuity carrier on its own to ensure that any potential division doesn't see the divorcing party's money going to either the insurance carrier in surrender fees or reduced benefits, or to Uncle Sam in taxes. I hope this brief overview of annuities and divorce has been helpful. If you're going through divorce and you're having trouble understanding the implication of dividing annuities, or any other investment for that matter, please don't hesitate to reach out. Visit my website at transcendretirement.net or shoot me an email at andrew@wiserdivorcesolutions.com. Until next time, take care.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Gray Divorce Podcast. To learn more or get in contact with your host, you can visit Andrew's website at transcendretirement.net. Also, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Information provided is educational only and should not be construed as legal or tax advice. Each situation is unique and should be discussed with your tax or legal advisor prior to implementation. Andrew Hatherley is not an attorney and does not provide legal advice. Information provided is financial in nature. Advisory services offered through Hatherley Capital Management, LLC. Divorce financial analysis services offered through Wiser Divorce Solutions, an affiliated company.